Welcome back to Welbeck Junction, and the last video saw us complete the inclines in and out both ends of the fiddle yard. So the next stage is to build the baseboards for the fiddle yard and sort of 3/4 of the rest of the layout. So without any further ado, let's crack on and start building baseboards. Jumping forwards, this is the first of the completed boards. What you can see here is a 6 foot by 2 foot piece of 9mm ply with a thinner fillet section at the rear by the wall to give it the increased width, and it is sitting on some plain smooth timber battens, 44mm thickness by 18mm. Not your contemporary or your most common type of baseboard underframe, but what this does do is, because the kitchen units are so solid underneath, gluing with wood glue and then screwing through the ply into those battens gives it a really strong structure, and then mounting them and screwing them on top of the kitchen baseboards makes them rock solid. They're not going anywhere. But importantly, by building them in these 6 foot by 2 foot dimensions means that I can unscrew them from the kitchen units as you would a normal kitchen worktop and be able to move them and relocate them to a different location if I ever needed to. And going back to my earlier videos, the ability to be able to move this layout once complete was a really important factor for me. Changing the perspective of the photo slightly, the board you can see there is the first of the fiddle yard boards to the left hand side of the fiddle yard. That sits lower than the main running board baseboards because the fiddle yard will sit below the main running level of the lines. So yeah, right hand side there is fiddle yards, and then you've got the step up to the left hand unit, which is the sort of the garage door end of the kitchen units. From there I'm going to work my way to the right, completing the baseboards down towards the back end of the garage. So touching on timber, the main sort of struts right to left, front to back, are going to be made out of this plain smooth whitewood 44mm by 18mm, and I'm buying it in 2.4 metre lengths because it's easy to get in the car. All from Wickes's. There's no affiliation to Wickes's. Apart from my local Wickes's timber is a lot better quality than my local B&Q. If I buy ply sheets from B&Q, it's just not as good a ply as I can buy from Wickes's, and my Wickes's timber lengths just end up being straighter than those I can get from B&Q. So that's my preference, but you can get them from either. So the main bulk of the supporting framework is going to be this 18 by 44mm whitewood plain smooth timber. This will make more sense in a bit when I come back to how I'm actually putting them together, but along the front edge of all of the baseboards that sit facing the walkway in the centre of the room, to get a better mounting point onto the kitchen units, I'm also facing them with this 44 by 44mm smooth plain timber. It's easy for me to say. It'll give it a bit of extra rigidity on the front end. It'll give me more ability to secure it to the kitchen units, and it'll give it a much better overhang when the actual kitchen cabinet doors go on at a later date. And finally, the ply I'm using is this 2 foot by 8 foot 9mm ply. Couple of reasons why I'm using it. It's manageable to handle, but going back to the aspect of wanting this to be modular in case I ever want to move it, it will go in and out of domestic doors. So it'll go out the internal garage door, it'll go out my front door, it would go upstairs if it needed to. So part of the reason is it's easy to manage and easy to handle, but from a modular point of view, it's a really easy size to be able to build and move if need be further down the line. So following the same process, here is the first of the full 6 foot length boards, and on the left hand side, bottom left, you can see I've got an extra supporting batten in there. Now that is because it is in the far corner and I want to do some extra bracing for the upper deck. I've stuck an extra batten in there, but this board followed the same principle of the 44 by 44 batten at the front, back to an 18 by 44, then I've used 18 by 44 all the way round with the 9mm ply sheet on the top. And right at the top of the image, you might just be able to pick it out, there is a slim slither, easy for me to say, of 9mm ply to make up the extra width on that baseboard. And here it is, baseboard number 1 in position at the garage end of the room, and you can see to the left of the baseboard is the start of the incline. And I did mention in the incline video that I built the baseboards at the same sort of time as I built the incline because they needed to sit flush to each other. So this is baseboard 1 in, which enabled me to start the incline from the left hand side of the fiddle yard. Following the same principle, I've built the right hand side fiddle yard baseboard, and there is a weird little notched section on the very far right where it misses the waste stack coming down the wall. So here is the middle small stubby section of the fiddle yard, and here it is in place. Now why have I gone with the left hand side first, the right hand side, and then a small stubby section in the middle? The logic behind that is the left and right hand side are going to house the points, all the point motors, frog juicers, the bulk of all of the wiring. The middle section is literally just going to have droppers to a DCC power bus. So if the eventuality that we ever move and the railway moves, I can either shorten it using this stubby section, replace it, or replace it with a longer section if the room is larger. So it's a bit of future proofing the fiddle yard. Fiddle yards are expensive to build in terms of point work, track work, point motors, you name it, it costs the most in the whole railway, so the infrastructure has to be correct. By putting this middle section in, what I'm hoping to do is future proof it if we ever move and it gets into a smaller or larger room. That's the logic anyway. With the fiddle yard complete, I then moved on to the first of the baseboards for the main supporting structure on top of the base unit. So this one is garage door end, and to the left hand side there is a curve where it wraps around and misses the incline coming up behind it. Very much a case of rinse and repeat once you've built one board. So that's a full 6 foot board there from the edge of the door, a small gap, we'll come back to that in a minute. End board in front of the garage door, moving along onto the lower level left hand side of the fiddle yard, which then runs the full length of the garage, and then the other end of the garage, or the back wall, is a slightly deeper board because the gap between the wall and the door allows nicely. And then across the door we're absolutely plumb with a bubble, and I said we'd come back to that gap, and here we are. So the little board that we built earlier on, and I showed you how I construct them, that was built to fit in that gap between the 6 foot board from the doorway to the end board in front of the what was garage door. The final board to cut is the end board against the far end of the garage, and that's a deeper board with a curved section to the right. And with that done, it was then gluing in the incline risers at the rear of the short side by the door to come up to the lower baseboard level. Again, the 3-degree risers from Woodland Scenic, so it was a case of just cutting to size, making sure they fitted, using a very shallow curve to bring them up, with then the use of a crossover on the actual lower baseboard level to cross over the incline and decline coming in each direction. Glued and weighted down. I was happy with that, and it seemed to work as I wanted it to. foam risers glued to the point of having a crossover. That is the lower level boards complete around the whole perimeter of the room, obviously excluding the doorway. So fiddle yard section is done and dusted, really happy with that. Coming round the top end where the garage door would be, again, really happy. Curved board, incline risers coming up behind. And then down the short side before the door, the risers coming up. Really, really pleased with that. It's come on really well. A slightly wider view, but I think from this view you can see the different modular sections of the baseboard, so that they can be removed if they need to. And I'm actually really pleased with that. It's given me a really good idea as to the length of run that I'm going to get for trains. So yeah, really, really pleased, and they've sat on top of the baseboards really, really well. One of the jobs I wanted to do just to tidy up the space was to put the white corner fillets in between the two kitchen units at the corners, so that it just makes it nice and sharp. So that draws to an end the baseboard build. They're sitting on top of the base units really, really well, better than I thought actually, so I'm really pleased with that. Look forward to you joining me in the next video, which is going to be caulking the fiddle yard boards and then looking at getting some track down and getting the fiddle yard well underway. So yeah, getting really exciting. Thanks for watching and see you next time.